Hi, guys, and welcome to another biblical worldview. I'm Daniela Bastino, and today I would like to discuss why everyone should take Black history of some sort, be educated about the Black people who have built up America and really our world. Um, the first thing I'd like to say just is that we really need a biblical worldview about race. I hate that I have been programmed to even use the word race. We all have been. And race is a word of division. Race is a word of the evolution theory. It is not from a biblical worldview, and we'll discuss why in a little bit here. But we really need to get out of that because it divides us and it really puts us in boxes. The word race does. Now, are we different nationalities? Yes. Do we have different ethnicities? Yes. But we are one race. And I will talk about the Bible and how we can get that from what God's word says. Of course, God created, and I believe. But Black people are often misunderstood, though, because of the lack of knowledge of African American history, not only in America, but really across the world, and especially, though, in our American public school system. Only a few Black contributors really mentioned throughout our Black history classes, our history classes. Now, there are some schools that will have a Black history class. They didn't have that when I was at our public school, but I do know that they do offer that now. Thankfully, that's really good. And I don't just think that Black people should know Black history. I think that all people should know not only Black history, but I would just say an inclusive idea of history and where we come from. You know, if you don't know history, you're bound to repeat it. And we have a crazy history. America does. We have a short history. We're not very old. Our nation is not. But a lot of things have happened, and there's been a lot of division, and there's been a lot of things that we've learned from in this nation. And it's important for all people to have a very inclusive idea of American history, specifically. Black history really wasn't taught. And like I said, we didn't have a class, but even in regular history, we learned about the same Black people. I mean, it was always Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. It was always during that era. You know, you would learn about people who were prominent in the civil rights era. Of course, you would learn about history that we were taught was predominantly white and very scattered. Like I said, any Black person mentioned, it was just the same people, and it was during that civil rights movement. Now, again, that could just be mine. But a lot of people who are watching this are from my area, and we really need to do something about that, about being more educated on a whole history. And even the history that we learn, it's pretty biased. I mean, the people that they show very heroic, and they don't show both sides of the person. You know, they don't show the humanistic part, like the human of a person, because we all have faults. We have things that are struggles for us. We all have things that might have brought us down, but we overcame. And showing that part of history, I think it just makes a big difference of who will believe that they can make it in this world. When we show you got to be perfect to make something out of yourself, which isn't even a true history. No one that we've seen in our history books that we believe is a great person really was all the way perfect. That's just not true. W.E.B. Du Bois said this: "One is astonished in the study of history at the recurrence of the idea that evil must be forgotten, distorted, skimmed over. We must not remember that Daniel Webber got drunk, but only that he was a splendid constitutional lawyer. We must forget that George Washington was a slave owner, and simply remembering the things we regard as credible and inspiring. The difficulty, of course, with this philosophy is that history loses its value as an incentive and example. It paints perfect man and noble nations, but it does not tell the truth." Now that quote is so absolutely true. That's not even biblical, that people are perfect. And of course, we can't follow that example. That's not an example we could follow. God doesn't do that in history. And when he presents history in the Bible, and the Bible's full of history, also full of some prophecy. There is poetry in the Bible. The Bible's full of all kinds of things, all true. But there's history in the Bible. And how does God present his history? If you look in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, it's called the Hall of Faith. And we see these men and women that God really, he wants to give us this picture of these people who were faithful. These people, indeed, who God used mightily. But we know they're not perfect. Let me give you some names of the people that are mentioned. Noah, Abraham, Sarah, Jacob, Moses, David, Samson was even mentioned in this great book. And there are many more mentioned in this imperfect. They should imperfect men and women. That's what God wanted us to see as our example. What? That he can use us even though we're not perfect. That we can choose him even though we're not perfect. Noah was a drunk, but we've seen him save, well, his family. He could have saved a lot more if anybody would have believed. They could have been saved as well. Abraham was a liar. Sarah walked in unbelief and coaxed her husband into, going without the will of God, just doing their own thing there. And that still haunts us today, might I say. But these people get it together. Jacob, he did whatever he could to get his way. He was a trickster. Moses was a murderer. David was an adulterer and a murderer. And Samson was very, very selfish. But these people turned to God and were led by God and were men and women of great faith. They weren't perfect, but they were used mightily by God. That kind of history makes us be able to do things. We can be not only shown an example, but we can be inspired to do. And the history that we learn does not inspire us, or at least not all people. Some people, of course, can be inspired. If you're rich, easy to be inspired. If you come from a prominent neighborhood, easy to be inspired. What if you come from a poor neighborhood? What if you come from hard circumstances where your parents are barely getting by, and that's how you were raised, and you had to wear, your brothers and sisters' clothes, just barely making it, shoes with holes in them? How do you think you're going to make it? And they end up not, because they believe what the history books are telling them, that you have to be perfect to make it, which is not true. We need an unbiased point of view of history. We need real history. We need Black history, not only for Black people, but for all people. Myself personally, like I said, I wasn't raised in a school system that was big on teaching Black history, but I do believe that if people knew more about those Black people who had real adversity, those Black people who had real oppression, those Black people who faced real racism, there was real misogynism at that time. It was real back then. It's not so much anymore. We have such opportunity. America is still the greatest country on earth. We have opportunity here. And if we would know what they were able to overcome, that would be encouraging to us to know that, man, my problems aren't that big. I don't have the oppression that they had. Yeah, sure, there are racist people. Yeah, sure, there are people who are going to call me the little man. Yeah, there's people who want me to fail. So what? Imagine those people. But what we usually see in our education system is it's a biased education. And there's a huge focus on the times of slavery and the civil rights movement when mentioning Black. And that's a shame, because there's so much more. I didn't even know who W.E.B. Du Bois was until I looked it up for myself and started to search things out for myself. And it's not too hard to see that the way that we focus our education has really impacted. And we can still see the earthquake of that horrific history that we have playing into today. We can see the aftershock today. Why? Because it's still being blown up in our face as something. That past is the past. And today we have this debate going on about reparations. Why? Why should a people who aren't slaves and who have never been slaves be paid by a people who never owned slaves? Why? You see, that history and that focus on that kind of history, all it does is stir up hate, and it stirs up division, and it stirs up this victim mentality. We all know Martin Luther King. We know Rosa Parks. We know George Washington Carver. We know certain names. But you know what? A lot of people, Harriet Tubman is going to be on the $10 bill. And when that issue first started coming up, there were people who did not know who Harriet Tubman was. And so we're mentioning these parts of history, but we're not mentioning all the people who overcame and who made a difference. People don't know who Phyllis Wheatley is, who Eunice Carter is, who Benjamin Banneker is, who Matthew Henson is, who C.J. Walker, James Armistead, Rebecca Lee Crumpler, Maggie Walker. Great people who overcame the adversity, who overcame the oppression and made great things, not only for Black people, but for America, period. We can go on with all the people who really made a difference. I'm talking politically, socially, financially, spiritually, in the arts and the education and science and medicine. There were Black people who overcame back then when it was so hard. I'm talking about before the 1900s, a lot of these people did great things. But we don't even know them. Maybe you do. Maybe your school system is better. But either way, I think that it should be more widely known. It shouldn't just be a Black history class. It should be part of all history. Let's be an inclusive history, and let's be real about the faults of people, that anybody can feel like they can succeed, because really we live in America, which is a place of opportunity, and really anybody can succeed, but people don't even realize it. Because why? Because we go back to the education, which is messed up and it's biased, and people are really not believing that they can do anything. These people were mentioned before the 20th century, when real racism existed, when real oppression existed, when these people could have died for just wanting to be educated. Shamefully, that was our history. But they overcame, you see? And so for us to whine and say that we can't do things today we do a discredit to those people who overcame back then. We do a serious discredit. And then have the nerve to call people out of their name, Uncle Toms, because they do the things that those people magnificently did. But we don't know about those people. We don't learn about those people. And what a difference it would be if people could go back, not only Black people, what if white people knew about these people as well? Everybody should know about these people. Again, we are one race. We shouldn't even be divided about skin color anyway. But we are. Let's face it, we are. People see these things. But our education shouldn't be biased. We should show truth. I mean, the truth is these people did great things. Why aren't they mentioned? Also, not only is it our education, but my goodness, our entertainment is against the Black culture moving forward. The movies, the music, whatever it is, the TV shows, all kind of keep us down. These things keep us down. I remember in 8th grade, my goodness, 8th grade, I got introduced to Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, Big Daddy Kane, West Side Connection. I'm listening to gangster rap. It seems so simple, but that started influencing my mind. As I watched the movies, Juice, Menace to Society, all these movies, Boys in the Hood. And my mind was so affected by this that I began to, my favorite shirt, and at 9th or 10th grade, I bought a shirt at a fair, and but it was a black shirt. It had bright orange letters, and it said, "Just because I'm Black doesn't mean I'm a criminal." And it was my favorite shirt to wear. Now, in reality, had anybody treated me like a criminal? Was I down here being treated like a criminal? Not really. But because of the music I was listening to, because of the shows that I was watching, that mindset began to set in. But those are our movies. That's our music today. That's what the Black community is listening to, keeping us down and keeping us with this mentality that people are against us, when in reality, if we look around, it's really not that bad. Yeah, sure, there might be some people who are. And you can have that for anything. We're going to have haters. Haters are going to hate, right? But we can do and be anything we want to be in this land of opportunity. Still the greatest nation on earth. We need to learn about women like C.J. Walker, the first self-made millionaire in America who happened to be a black woman. We need to learn about men like Matthew Henson, who was with that group that was the first to explore the North Pole and the Arctic. Now, he was with a man named Baker, and of course, Baker got all the credit. I think it was in 1909 that they were the first to land in the North Pole and really get there. And I mean, it was 7 explorations that they had. And they didn't make it. And you know Henson knew that he wasn't going to get any credit. You know Henson knew that people weren't going to remember him, that Baker was going to get all the credit. I mean, that was just the way of the times. But did he quit? No. Did he stop? No. Was he sitting in self-pity, calling himself a victim? No. He continued on and he worked. And he went to all 7 expeditions until they landed there. And then when everybody came and cheered and gave Baker all the credit, did Henson stop there? No. He went home and he wrote a book. And he told everybody about his expeditions, showing that he was there, giving more inspiration to other people. And you know what? He was really oppressed. He really faced racism. Guys, today, I think we are living in the past, and we need to get over it. That whole reparations idea is stupid. It makes no sense at all. We don't deserve any money from the government for no reason. Let's get over it. You know what we do need to do is just make our communities better by ourselves, building ourselves up. First, let's go to our education. Let's make sure we know some of these people. And let's remember that they face real adversity. And then let's look at ourselves today and realize, it's not so bad. I have real opportunity here. I can make the best of my education. I can go out and do whatever I want. Whatever I want to be, I can make it. I can go to college. I can do something with my life. There are ways to do it in America. Biblically speaking, God wants us to do great things. All people. We are all one nation. We are no less. And if you believe the evolution theory, that makes us a lesser people. Do we believe that? No, God created. We're no lesser people. I hope that you are encouraged to go out and learn some Black history. Learn some unbiased history. Look at the people even that were taught in history and look at how they weren't perfect. Because this will help us. We're not trying to put them down or belittle what they've done. Does the Bible do that to David? No, God still calls him a man after God's own heart after he did all those things. Why? Because he had a repentant heart and he still got it together and did great things for God even after he messed up. And we have the ability to do that. That's the great thing. That's the great thing about our great God. That we face this human nature that's crazy, that's not perfect. We have a great God that we can be guided by. And no matter where you come from, you can do great things and you can be great. But you got to start. So let's look at some of them people. I just encourage you to look at some. In fact, how about you everybody out there, you look up somebody and throw a fact down in the comments below. Maybe we can teach each other and learn some things and be surprised about things we didn't know. Let's learn something new and let's grow. And may you be blessed with truth today.